Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. Most of us were never really taught how money works. We were only taught how to earn it, maybe how to spend it, but never how to build it. Now imagine the largest wealth transfer in human history. Somewhere between 60 trillion and 90 trillion is happening right now. And most of the inheritors don't know what a limited partnership is. That's the problem my guest today, CJ Follini, is trying to solve. CJ is the founder of NOYACK, a learn, plan, invest ecosystem using AI agents to teach financial literacy and democratize access to alternative assets like real estate, fine art, and venture capital. He's managed billions for ultra-wealthy families, built an AI called NOYACK.ai to help the next generation DIY their wealth, and get this, his family once held a $50 million fine art portfolio before Masterworks existed. In this episode, you'll learn how CJ turned his father's medical crisis into a 35-year wealth management career, why he believes the future belongs to financial generalists, and how AI agents will completely disrupt wealth management. If you're a founder, investor, or just someone who wants to finally feel confident about your money, this one's for you. 3 reasons right now to sign up for the AI for Founders newsletter at aiforfounders.co. 1, you'll get the smartest AI startup insights you can actually use. 2, you'll never miss the playbooks my guests only share off-air. And 3, you'll look dangerously well-informed at your next investor meeting. If you enjoy this episode, leave a review. Tell us what your AI agent would say about it. This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster, the podcast booking agency that gets founders, CEOs, and thought leaders interviewed on the world's top podcasts. If you've got a story to tell, Kitcaster helps you tell it on shows your customers already love. We do the research, pitch the hosts, and get you booked where it matters. No cold outreach, no wasted time, just meaningful conversations that move your business forward. I've used Kitcaster myself for years, and if you've heard any founder stories lately that blew your mind, there's a good chance Kitcaster put them there. So get started at kitcaster.com/application and let the world hear your story. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. CJ, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure to be here, Ryan. Thank you for inviting me.
100%. I'm really excited to talk about financial literacy. I feel like I always have something new to learn. Now, begin the conversation with a little context about you and your company, NOYACK.
Well, son of immigrants, and that's important because it speaks a lot to my DIY ethos as everything I do. No one can teach me anything. I have to dissect it, break it down, reverse engineer it, and learn it for myself. And I did just that. Father had a stroke, had to leave my failed professional hockey career and take up the family business, which we did, and then found out that I had a talent for wealth management, specifically alternative investments. And I did that for 9 ultra high net worth families for 35 years. After DIYing it in my 20s, once my father had that stroke. So that's a little bit about me. Again, I think that's how I got here, is about learning about the next generation and what they're going to go through when it comes to the great wealth transfer and the 80, 90 trillion, they've made up numbers at that point, right? 80, 90 trillion leaving my old ass generation and even older baby boomers to next gen, which is millennials, younger millennials, and Gen Z. And as I mentioned to you in the prep, the abysmal state of financial literacy in this country. How are they going to DIY, and what are the tools?
I love it. Now let's take it back a little bit when you're doing alternative investments. So what does that include? What kind of asset classes is that?
Well, the big one for immigrants is real estate. I mean, come on. What immigrant do you not know that doesn't invest in real estate, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whether it's most likely warehouse, industrial, logistics? I don't know why. I don't know if it's coincidental, but for some reason we seem to understand, commercial real estate better than the average bear. So that's a big one. And that's where we started in my history back when I was in my early 20s. But then over time, we, as we matured as a multifamily office, we were in over 8 different asset classes, including secondaries and obviously early stage venture capital, fine art. We actually had a $50 million fine art portfolio before Masterworks ever knew what a blue chip artwork was. And that did, by the way, we did a look back over 30 years. Our best performing asset class was the fine art. Now, not deep enough, not big enough to move the needle, but on a per capita basis, best performing art class, fine art.
Incredible. That's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I want to hear your take then on the Louvre robbery recently. Did that affect you in any certain kind of way?
Well, no, I actually don't like old masters. I couldn't care less about the actual. I mean, I do collect personally, and my wife and my wife's on the board of a museum here in New York. So we care about it, but we're mostly BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color, artists, female artists, sort of the unrecognized canon of fine art,
Interesting.
as well as contemporary. Yeah, I mean, well, I can go into financially the cynical view of that. We do love those artists as well, and contemporary primarily is where we vibe to. As for the Louvre, well, if it wasn't valuable or going to be more valuable, no one would spend their goddamn time and risk their ass in jail if it wasn't going to be valuable and more valuable. So, I guess they believe in the thesis as well.
Yeah, 100%. Amazing. Okay, let's talk about this big wealth transfer that's going to happen over the next 20, 30 years. Maybe I'm being generous because, I'm not getting any younger either. But exactly what is your position and how are you kind of forecasting? What steps are you taking for this kind of like massive wealth redistribution among families?
Well, I mean, I'm speaking my own book a little bit here, but there's a few trends that you can see. And before I get to the pain points, I'll just talk about the trends. Obviously, the facts remain that the baby boomer and now Gen X is the two wealthiest generations in history. And they also are compressed in their age. So the inheritees are transferring that wealth faster than any other generation. That's important. It's not just how much, and it's an insane amount. I mentioned that. Again, anywhere from 60 to 90 trillion. I've heard numbers all over, but it's in that range. But it's how fast. Normally, that would be a 30-year, this is happening, the bulk of it, in like 10, 12 years. Even though we measured those numbers over 20 to 25, a lot of it is happening in the next 10 to 12 years, really quickly. That's important because if you're not prepared, and if you're not prepared to understand limited partnership appraisal and transfer taxes and all the latest ways of tax mitigation, well, you're going to get screwed.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a serious situation. Also, strangely, I think that's a lot to say about my generation. Again, aside from financial literacy, intergenerational conversations about wealth, family wealth, are at a surveyed low of all time.
Yeah.
We actually did a 5,000 respondent survey, and we have a millennial audience. This is in our newsletter. So over 6-7 months, we received 5,000 respondents to a very big survey. One of those things that we surveyed was how much conversation they have with their parents about wealth, transferring wealth, what the family does, etc. 8%.
Yeah.
8% had serious conversations with their parents. I mean, or and extended family members about this. That's crazy. That's crazy to me.
This episode is brought to you by Moburst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. Moburst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, Moburst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At Moburst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, Moburst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At Moburst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to Moburst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category defining together. What's up, everybody? Let me hit you with some math that will blow your mind. A wealth manager using WarmStart.ai grew their assets under management by $8.5 million in 3 months. Their monthly fee, $500. That's a 1,700% return on investment in 3 months. And I get it, another AI tool, another monthly subscription. But here's what makes WarmStart different. It's not trying to find you new people to bug, it's helping you reconnect with people who already know you. As a founder, your biggest asset isn't your product or your website, it's your relationships. But most of us are terrible at nurturing them systematically. WarmStart connects your email, identifies warm contacts, and helps you craft personalized outreach that doesn't sound like a robot wrote it. The best part, you review every message before it goes out. No automation without permission. If you're ready to stop leaving money in your inbox, try WarmStart.ai. Use code AIFF for $50 off your first month because the ROI on your existing relationships is probably better than any investment you'll make this year. That's WarmStart.ai and use code AIFF. What's up, everybody? Let me hit you with some math that will blow your mind. A wealth manager using WarmStart.ai grew their assets under management by $8.5 million in 3 months. Their monthly fee, $500. That's a 1,700% return on investment in 3 months. And I get it, another AI tool, another monthly subscription. But here's what makes WarmStart different. It's not trying to find you new people to bug, it's helping you reconnect with people who already know you. As a founder, your biggest asset isn't your product or your website, it's your relationships. But most of us are terrible at nurturing them systematically. WarmStart connects your email, identifies warm contacts, and helps you craft personalized outreach that doesn't sound like a robot wrote it. The best part, you review every message before it goes out. No automation without permission. If you're ready to stop leaving money in your inbox, try WarmStart.ai. Use code AIFF for $50 off your first month because the ROI on your existing relationships is probably better than any investment you'll make this year. That's WarmStart.ai and use code AIFF.
Well, I mean, it kind of puts a spotlight on the stereotype of boomers in general, which is, narcissistic, not letting go of power, wanting to stay in the saddle as long as possible, not divulging critical information. Like, there's also some.
Wait, Ryan, I thought we weren't going to have a political conversation here. You're not talking about our president, are you? That was tailor-made. I mean,
I teed that up.
Tuned in right there. It's like, oh, this is a political podcast.
Honestly, it is characteristic of the generation that they were met probably with a little bit of stoicism from their parents. You don't talk about money, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion at the dinner table. And now they're 80 years old and like it never changed. And so, you have Gen X, millennials are starting to look around like, hey man, like what are we supposed to do? Like we never got those instructions, So yeah. I know you've got kind of like a suite of products and like kind of infotainment. Talk to us a little bit about NOYACK.ai because this looks really interesting when I'm reading about it. A first AI agent for financial literacy. So you can ask the agent about taxes, retirement accounts, investing. And like, I would be really interested to hear how you trained this agent and kind of who's like the ideal user for the product.
Thank you for that intro. Well, first, what we are, I'll do a little background before I jump into NOYACK.ai, which is a conversational small language model. What we are two things. NOYACK Wealth Club is a 501c3 registered nonprofit with the mission of financial literacy for young adults. And NOYACK Investing Club is providing access, digitally native access to alternative investments, all asset classes. Now, and we're building agentic AI, 3 AI agents. You mentioned the first one, which rests in the financial literacy, owned by NOYACK. All the agents are owned proprietarily by NOYACK Investing Club, NOYACK Inc. And then that's our ecosystem name. They are the bridge. So they're the bridge from literacy to action, from knowing to making choice and taking action. So NOYACK.ai is the first of our agents that we built, and we built it over the last 2 years, and we've been training it nonstop. The original information really started with our newsletter. So our newsletter, which just celebrated this last Sunday, was our 100th edition. 100 straight weeks. I'm very proud of that. Consistency is everything. As an ex-pro athlete, it's not about how great you can be in one day. It's how decent you can be every day. And so 100 straight weeks. And really, we used all of the learning from our expertise, mine in alternative investments, others in personal finance, debt reduction, estate planning, retirement planning. We used these newsletters as the training. So we built 2,000 words every week. And that went into the training of the model over and over continuously. And we started with a bulk of beginning information, which we all know are the basics. That we all learned, I learned in Economics 101 and also personal finance over the years. A lot of the alternative investment general information was trained from experts that came from my network. Mm-hmm. So between podcasts and all of our content, that actually is the training foundation of the small language model, is all of the content we've created over a couple of years, which is a ton.
Yeah. Well, it might be a small language model, but that's exactly what the large language models are doing too. They're scraping newsletters, social media, and podcast transcriptions in a major way.
Absolutely. In fact, weirdly, one of our hyper-specific newsletters showed up in Claude, in Anthropic. And I was using it. I'm like, wait a minute. I wrote about this topic, and that phrase seems oddly reminiscent. And I remember this, and I went back. It was like a couple months earlier. I'm like, holy shit! That turned a phrase about a specific alternative investments. It was about land. It was about ag tech land investing, farmland investing. And I used a very specific phrase, which is sort of an insider jargon. And there it was. And I'm like, holy crap! They scraped our newsletter.
That's so funny. That's great, though. It's awesome.
Yeah. No, except they didn't credit me. So no one knows where it came from. They think it came from Anthropic, which it didn't.
Yeah. So I love this conversation of financial literacy. Do you think there's something that exists in the world which is financial virtuosity? If literacy is what I did when I was studying Spanish 201, and I'm like, donde está la biblioteca? It's like, okay, I've established maybe a little bit of literacy here, but like, can you truly get to a new plateau at some point? What is that?
Well, that's okay. So the virtuosity, it assumes that someone wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be the best at financial literacy. That's really what you're describing. And I can tell you, even as a professional, investment professional, real estate professional, finance bro, generally, no one wakes up thinking now. They'd rather do anything else in life rather than become an expert in financial literacy. Maybe there's a few. I'll find that tribe. But what really is important is that bell curve, that center bell curve median of people who need to be cognizant enough in order to improve their life, manage their life, and provide for whatever they choose in life, family, home, whatever. Retirement, making movies. Maybe they want to finance movies. Well, they better work really, really hard. Because as we know, to finance movies, you need to start, you need a small fortune, you better start with a large one.
And you just burn it, right? That's what you do?
Just burn it.
Burn the money.
Yeah. So they got to become very financial literate if they want to do that with their lives. But the real bridge is to action. So a lot of people can become literate enough, and that word is a little bit hackneyed, right? A little cliche. It's about, how do I do all the things that I need to do and do it without 18 fragmented professionals? I need life insurance to protect my family's future. I need second to die policies. I need a retirement plan. I need to understand, should I have a Roth? Should I have a trad for a 401k, or my solo practitioner? I need a SEP IRA. And is there a conversion? What are the pitfalls? By the way, I want to increase my allocation to alts, to private markets, up to 25%. How do I do that? Where do I do it? And what is appropriate for me, given my risk tolerance? I have 2 kids. By the way, I have student debt that I just cannot get rid of. Mm-hmm. How do I do that and still maintain an emergency fund for those rainy days? So all these things generally would take 5, 6 professionals outsourced to make happen. And then you probably have 4 or 5 different bank accounts, money market, maybe a brokerage account at TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, or whatever. Actually, they're one now. And you're like, I can't even, financially literate, I can't even remember the logins to my 5 accounts. I can't even get in. During COVID, how many hours did you spend trying to log into all your accounts? And it's like, geez, I can't remember the password again. I got to reset. So the next step from the learning and understanding the choices is that bridge to action, to planning. And that is, I'm sorry, again, I'm bugging my own book. That's our next agent called Profit AI, PROPHIT. It is a portfolio optimization tool, which then takes into account your risk tolerance, your disposable, investable cash, your panoply of investments from fixed income to cash to life insurance policies to alts, etc., and then makes recommendations based on what's called modern portfolio theory, which is basically what Yale used for 20 years to become the #1 endowment in history. My mentor, Swenson, who passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years in the middle of COVID. But he made Yale #1 endowment 20 years running using modern portfolio theory and advocating for alts. That's long-term investments, and now in doing it for the individual. So then you take that, and this is our third bill, quarterback.ai. So you have the learning of the choices and where you stand in financial literacy. You have the portfolio optimization and realizing some of the investment actions. And then you have someone who would normally be a registered investment advisor, you're a wealth manager, or maybe your rich uncle, right? There's always a rich uncle involved. Hopefully he's honest, or she's honest. Then she'd be an aunt. And that's what manages it all. So as I build, and we're still building, that one's still coming. It's tremendous as an agent. As I build and as we conclude the building of quarterback.ai, what I notice is that the registered investment advisory industry is history. I think, and the consolidation in the wealth management industry, history. If you talk about at this location, that's going to be the next one.
Why?
Well, first of all, fees. Second of all, their agendas are not aligned, and this is a 30-year history. You can listen, in every group there's great ones, but by and large, the role of a wealth manager is to not get sued. It's to not lose. So when you're worried more about beta, meaning their own risk, versus your alpha, your seeking return in the most optimized, risk optimized way, you're not going to do well. You're going to be a race to the middle. Mediocrity is really what the industry strives for. And if you're trying to accomplish things that you can do better yourself, you're not going to strive. You're not going to accept mediocrity.
Yeah.
So if what we're building, and I think it will, proves to be anywhere close to our expectations, it's going to dislocate the investment industry, which just strives for mediocrity, and create the individual who can manage their wealth better than anyone, knowing what their risk tolerance is, not striving for mediocrity, and taking risk, not avoiding risk. All right, listen, the wealth management industry is risk avoidance. You, knowing what you should and can't do, especially once you become financially literate, that's taking smart, educated risk.
Yeah. Well, statistically, I think, most people would fall into the place where they're feeling insecurity about their wealth. They're feeling insecure about their retirement options. They're probably insecure with their spending and probably insecure about what they really want, because everyone wants to educate themselves a little bit better and have some new opportunities, investments, but maybe that cruise to Mexico's looking good too. And that's what they really want. So I think, alternative investments are great because most people are going to come into investing late, which means they've got ground to cover, right? They're not going to, of course, max out your Roth, max out your 401k and everything else. But, ultimately it's like you want to buy index funds. It's like, do you got 30 years? We're going to have to do something a little bit more aggressive. Now, obviously, we're not giving advice to anybody or anything else. But when you're looking at alternative kind of asset classes, I mean, are you including, it sounds like you're doing some venture type deals. What about crypto? What about some of well, let's stick with those two first. What's your take?
Okay, so there's 14 major alternative investment asset classes. Real estate by far the largest, and real estate also has subsets of, you got residential, you got commercial. Commercial itself has 7 different subcategories: logistics, data centers, in the medical, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Now, should everyone be in everything? No, not at all. The one problem, there's 2 problems with alternative investments as I see for the individual. I don't like to use the word retail. I think that's a moniker given by Wall Street to denigrate the individual investor. I think it's ridiculous, actually. But there's 2 problems that hold back the individual investor from really getting involved and allocating appropriately to alternative investments. One is due diligence. It's hard. To due diligence an individual deal or a fund is not easy. I did it for 30 years. It took me 10 years to learn how to do it well. So I can tell you it's not easy. And if you mess up and you make a bad decision based on poor due diligence, well, that's a risk, right? That's a decision risk. And 2, illiquidity. So, and they're both bad, but illiquidity is probably the tougher one. To know when you're going to need cash is the hardest part, because 1, you're not getting out of alternative investments generally. That's a little bit of a blanket statement, but generally you're not. 2, if you try and you have to bail and someone's going to take you out at a 70% haircut, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, it's going to be a disaster for you. So those 2 issues are about planning, budgeting. And here's where budgeting comes in, I think, very much so. Everyone thinks it's about having a house budget. And of course that's important. How much should you spend? What's really important is to know how much you can invest, plan, and have emergency fund. So in order to do alternative investments, you have to begin with budgeting, and doing budgeting with a sensitivity analysis of looking at your life, not over 2 months or 6 months, but 2 years. You should budget and track for 2 or 3 years. And you can also learn at the same time concurrently, but you should not be investing in anything illiquid until you have 2 or 3 years of your budgeting history. Now, you can do that manually. And who hasn't done it for spreadsheets for the last 20 years, right? But there are going to be tools, including ours and others, that are going to take that 2 to 3 years of personal data and give you 3 to 5, 10-year plan on what to invest, and a portfolio optimization. Recommendations, not advisory. By the way, number 1 people who are asking about these tools from us are registered investment advisors. And when I speak to them, I'm like, let me just get this straight. You want our agents to do the job that you're trained and licensed, Series 63, 63, to do for your clients. That seems, I don't know, it doesn't seem right to me. You should be doing the job and you should be doing it both with tools, but manual input and subject matter expertise. But anyway, that falls on deaf ears.
That's great. So the tool itself, everyone's got their spreadsheet, goes back a couple of years. They load it into the agent, and it's giving them recommendations based on kind of like their budgeting and spending.
Yeah, so that's Quarterback AI, and that's what's in early beta stage. So What we're doing is loading a lot of our own budget information over years, and it's starting to forecast. Now, it has to forecast how much should you have for your emergency fund, how much should you have for your house fund, how much should you have for your children's 529 and college education fund, and it's starting to balance all of these needs, and you might say necessities. And then, by the way, what's your fun need? What's your cruise, your trip to Punta Mita in Mexico, et cetera, your ski trip, and it's starting to balance them, which you would have 3 or 4 professionals trying to do.
Yeah.
So, and then it also is taking real-time changes in your portfolio. Let's say you have a public portfolio. It's bringing in data sources from public securities, fixed income. You get promoted. You get a higher salary. It's taking in that. You go into a higher tax bracket. It counteracts the higher salary. It considers that. It's not easy to do, and I hand it to those very good registered investment advisors who have done it well, but those are usually reserved for the super wealthy who can afford to pay the best in the RIA industry. They're not coming for us, those managers. They're like, listen, if I'm going to do the same thing and be really good at it, I might as well work for Bill Gates, not for CJ Follini. And I say, you're right.
I'm getting paid in points. Might as well like stack them up.
Yeah, we're getting paid in points. It's the same work. It's just I might as well get a point on a big mountain than a little hill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm with you, brother. Sister, I get it. Go work for Bill. You don't need me.
So what would you say to somebody like me? I'm the kind of guy who I've got all my spreadsheets, and maybe I'm a little hesitant to put them into the machine because I'm afraid of judgment, which is to say that like once the machine looks at all my expenses, it'd be like, Ryan, you should probably invest in Cane's considering how much your fat ass is eating that chicken, you know?
So, that's actually a very interesting question, which we had, because, you look at technology generally, and especially AI. I mean, I know there's people who are having relationships with AI. I'm still wrapping my head around it, and we're immersed in it every day, but I'm still wrapping my head about that. That might just be age specific. So I look at it as hyper rational. It is. I'm a data nerd. That's how I started to do what I did. A numbers geek, and I say this is a tool that takes us from the abacus to the HP13 calculator, HP13C, etc., and keeps going. It's just another one in the progression of tools, taking in rational data points and spitting out a rational conclusion. Now, if you're worried about how you feel about those conclusions, that is a question I've never actually had. And if it influences your use of these tools, and maybe you're like, I don't want to hear this. I know I'm not saving enough. I know I should be getting that life insurance policy from I got to be honest with you. That's a tough one. And I think it also speaks to the ethical use of AI, by the way. And I think those questions are, and listen, I'm going to be honest, we haven't addressed it. We're still trying to get the right answers at the fastest output possible. But yeah, your personal wealth management is wrought with emotion. It should be, but there's emotion running through it. How you feel, judgments, etc. So it's a very interesting question. One that makes me think a lot more about, next stage, next phase, building of our agents. But, how does someone feel about the answers they get? I never even thought about it. Yeah, that's a good point.
And, that's one thing that I try and talk to my kids about early. We got them some investment accounts and stuff so they can learn about the market and learn about trading a little bit, learn about like supporting companies that they use. I think that's important, but also like how they're feeling about their own financial literacy. And I think a lot of it was falling on deaf ears until I started really talking to them about like, okay, how do you want to live when you're retired? Like what do you see yourself doing? So really visualizing, putting yourself there, starting to put dollars around that. And then, with AI, GPT, you can create these like little calculators very simply to say like, okay, well, you'll have these retirement benefits if you do X, Y, Z, but this is the amount of income you're going to have to stack over the next 30 years in order to live the way that you want to. So then the light bulbs start going off because, for kids right now, it's really hard to look into the crystal ball and say like, what should I do for a career? How should I approach money? Particularly because we don't even know what kind of jobs will exist in 5 or 10 years. So like, where do you shoot? Like when I was a kid, the only jobs I really knew about were what was on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. You know what I mean? So it's like now all those jobs are different. They're all robots.
Yeah.
So
physical jobs are not actually. If you're a plumber,
good point.
If you're a plumber and HVAC, if you're an HVAC repair, forget it. You're going to do very, very well.
You're good forever.
How old are you, if I may ask? How old are your kids?
18 and 16.
Did you start a while ago on what you just described?
Yeah, absolutely.
When they were young? That's great. I mean, listen, I love hearing that. I mean, and by the way, it's not common. That's not common for parent talking to their 8-10-year-old. I mean, my sons are 4 and 5. I'm starting to, but they're not, really getting. The 5-year-old actually wants to be an engineer, and he's getting it. And he's also apparently very greedy. I've come to learn. So he's starting to understand the power of the purse. So yeah,
my kids have just kind of naturally been drawn to finance. Like they're both really good with money, very responsible. It was probably about a year ago that my son was like, "Oh, Dad, I can't get any more money in my piggy bank. Piggy bank. It's a little bear, a
Mm.
little ceramic bear." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "Wait. What do you mean you can't get any more money in there?" And he's like, "Dad, I can't push it in anymore." I was like, "Is that thing full of cash?" I was like, "Let me see that." It's like, it
But they
weighs,
disappear in the next coming weeks.
weighs 15 pounds. I was like, "Dude, let's make a video and smash this thing open and,
Oh,
put this in your account. You should be making returns on this." So he was
yeah.
all about it. He had $3,000. Yeah.
You know, that's insane. That's insane. The stuff that we're getting bigger piggy banks. I wonder, that brings up another question. Is there a genetic predisposition to being good with money? I wonder. No one's ever tested that. I wonder. I mean, obviously left brain, right brain, you could say, but I've known a lot of very smart mathematicians who couldn't they couldn't figure out their own finances worth a damn.
Well, it's almost like a cliche, like doctors and lawyers. You know what I mean? Just like financial distress because they're like
Oh my
always
God.
buying jewelry.
Don't
and
even get me
like,
started on doc. See, I'm alienating so many different people on this podcast.
we all love our doctors.
Yeah, wait, no, I have had 23 surgeries. Without them, I'm held together with chicken wire in my body. But we created a large medical office portfolio. So I worked with doctors as tenants for 20 years. And I can say unequivocally, maybe the worst group of people with money that I've ever met. And I'm not saying just because we were charging a rent. I spent a lot of very funny conversations explaining things.
Amazing. Cool. Talk a little bit about the nonprofit arm of the company. That's a very interesting wrinkle, particularly in a time now where it appears that nonprofits turn into profits.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's funny. Oh, but and by the way, you'd think that's what we're emulating. Not. We did emulate something. I'm a better editor than I am a writer. And so I like to copy success where I see it versus try and reinvent the wheel all the time. AARP. What people don't know that AARP is not only a nonprofit for the advancement of retired persons, right? The Association of Advancement of Retired Persons. It's the largest affiliate marketing for-profit on the planet. Most successful, most profitable, by far.
Yeah.
It does a mission. It does it very well. But it also does, it has a very profitable business. Now, you mentioned about capitalism, et cetera, and how your children were learning about what they want to do, how they want to do it, what kind of companies they want to promote, pursue, invest in. Well, I actually think that this sort of nonprofit for-profit is going to become more normalized, and not in the OpenAI way, in more in the AARP way. Yeah. Because social capitalism amongst younger generations, Gen Z and millennials, is a very big thing. I've had a lot of conversations where, listen, I come from a very transactional generation. I didn't care about what they were doing. I just want to know what the returns are. I do much more so now that I have kids. But when I talk to younger generations, they not only, in fact, they don't want to know what the returns are first. They want to know, what is the social impact? Yeah. What is the mission? Why? And then they say, oh, by the way, what are the numbers? Right? That is the reverse of what I was brought up. So understanding that a mission can also be profitable, something mission-driven can also be profitable, I think is the way of the younger generation's understanding of capitalism.
Which is really encouraging because, I think probably, Gen Z, they get it. Yeah. Like they want to have meaning behind their investments and they want to feel like they're contributing to a better world, which is beautiful. So, for example, there was like this trend, or there was this like accusation of greenwashing that was going around, which is to say when they would build a new Walmart, they would like use like repurposed materials and they'd put solar panels on it and doing all these like really cool carbon neutral things where you would think like the more, I don't know, protest kind of people would be like, oh, great, they're doing good things. But rather they're like, no, you're just using this as a ploy to get people to buy into your concept. But it's like, isn't that the best thing you could possibly do? That Like, if you're doing good for everybody and making money at it, it's like, no, this is the direction we want to jump at. Is like, okay, I
agree.
So So I feel like it's really loosening up now where people are saying like, hey, where's the win-win situations here? We all want to make a buck. And if we can do it and satisfy some of our more noble principles, even better.
Yeah, listen, the most altruistic or the most utopian says, not only do we want them to do good, but we want them to want to do good for the right reasons, motivation. However, to really advance and really advance, especially amongst the capitalist society that has been transactional for a very long time, should worry about the outcomes and let the motivations over time with generations taking over the leadership. Those motivations will come. The ones the more altruistic, the right motivations. But if you're getting the outcomes at any stage, and even if Walmart is using it for promotional marketing purposes, and yet you're still getting the benefits,
yeah,
let's worry about that as a step one. And then step two, let's worry about why they're doing it after that. I listen, some might say that's an overly pragmatic viewpoint. I don't. I think it's like, again, I like seeing the actual tangible benefit, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. 100%. I love it. Okay. CJ, are you ready for the lightning round?
Yeah. Shoot.
Let's do it. Okay. You have a very successful career in finance. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The listeners of this show love business ideas. Do you have any business idea rattling around in there that's been driving you crazy that maybe you can share with us?
Jesus, you ask someone like me, that's another hour podcast. Now what I have to do is run through my top three. I have like 8. I'm not kidding. I'll give you something that's very generic retail. And I'll give you something that's a little bit advanced in alternative investments. The generic retail is if you go to storage facilities, and this isn't a real estate concept. If you go to storage facilities, we have them. There's like 60% of what's in the storage facility that's never going to get used, never going to be repurposed. It's just going to get ultimately thrown away. So the old school flea markets called the souks in Turkey and whatever, they should happen right at those storage facility, and there should be an eBay for a storage facility. Absolutely. For
That's
all of the excess material. And guess what? All storage facilities have a lot of land. There should be traveling markets exchanging those goods right there, like a physical eBay. That's one. And that's the franchisable idea anyone can do. Now, a little bit more advanced and one that we are sort of pursuing, but it's a slow burn. Similarly, there is a tremendous excess capacity in parking garages. I don't mean the ones under buildings. I mean the block full 1,000-unit parking lots, right? Parking garages, structure. It's called structured parking. There's post-COVID, there's like 60% vacancy. So there used to be an average vacancy around tier 1, tier 2 urban cities of about 75 to 80%. There were cash machines. Literally, yeah. One of the areas that people in real estate don't realize, but parking garage is very, very good. Yeah. Now, not as good. You still, I know there's a return to work movement, but there's still a lot of people home. You're turning those into logistics depots, micro fulfillment centers where Amazon lockers, Walmart lockers, cold storage facilities, because small artisanal grocers, they need to be able to ship within 30 minutes, and they cannot afford a 1 million square foot regional cold storage facility that they can get their goods from like Whole Foods can. So your mom and pop places, they need 2,000 square feet of cold storage. Especially if they're an organic specialist, that food has to stay cold all the time, right? So underutilized parking garages are becoming multi-purpose micro fulfillment centers called mobility hubs. And here's the capper: the rooftops for the bigger ones are going to wear the eVTOLs, the electric vehicle takeoff and landing, the air taxis. That's how they're going to distribute. They're going to land on top of old parking garages.
Oh, cool.
And people are going to drive away right from that air taxi. The 2 people, there'll be an Uber waiting for them, a driverless Uber. So they will go from a driver in a vertical takeoff and landing electric air taxi to a driverless Uber out of the parking garage and into right in downtown, wherever they are.
Love that. How something I don't know? How close are we to air taxis?
The first urban flight will take place in the third quarter, September through fourth quarter of this year. For Q4 of this year, there's going to be a New York City flight taking people to Kennedy Airport.
Incredible.
Now, the biggest issue about all of this adoption is they need landing spots.
Yeah.
And the existing ones that like the airports, they're done, they're full. And they're also not where you want to be. They're not in downtown. So there is a big move, and I've already spoken to Joby Archer. They're the leading eVTOL companies, both public. And they're looking at landing on rooftops of large parking garages.
Incredible. There was 3 skyscrapers downtown Denver that sold like 9 years ago for 170 million and sold last year for 7 million, which is just to say that all these cities are going to have these gigantic open spaces in them. What would you do with those big buildings with nobody in them?
Question, even for a real estate expert. I mean, that's a tough one. They don't work as residential conversions. They just say that, especially the public REITs, so they don't get hammered. Large commercial floor plates, especially the larger floor plates, do not work as residential conversion. And I hate to say this, there really isn't a repurpose, which is crazy when you think about how many, the percentage of commercial office buildings we have. They don't. I still think, even though there's a huge return to work movement and, return to office RTO, I still think one of the greatest risks we have in the real estate sector is commercial office. I used to think it was strip mall, all those malls that no one goes to anymore. I don't think so anymore. So who knows? Maybe there'll be an idea that come up. Strip malls are becoming game centers. They're becoming digital Pokemon that you go around with your phone using AR. Right?
Yeah.
Using hybrid AR to play a game. Who knows? Maybe there'll be another idea. Yeah, exactly. Padel. Well, for me, it's paddle. I love padel.
Yeah,
love padel. Yeah, I'm too embarrassed to play pickleball. I'm sorry. I'm still young enough not to want to play pickleball.
Still got some
I
pride.
used to play squash.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I it's interesting. I'm still very concerned about commercial office.
Yeah. And for good reason. Is there any entrepreneur or CEO that you follow closely or admire?
Geez, that's another hour as well. Other than the obvious in the realm of AI, there is someone who is creating a similar agent called Copilot.money. Very impressed with him. He's a former Google ML machine learning scientist. And he's coming up with this app, and I only know him from afar. It just won an App Store award, not just for its functionality, but it's for its UX. Brand new. I think he understands, and again, it's in our bailiwick, it's in our area. I could go on. I mean, Sam Zell, the late Sam Zell, was my real estate mentor and mentor. So that's that. Investment was David Swenson, the Yale CIO. So I can go on. They're dead too. So that's what happens when you're old like me. All your mentors are dead. So I'm trying to give you one that is not only alive but actually young and killing it. As much as we'd hope to. And his name is Andres. He is the founder of Copilot.money, and I'm very impressed with what he's doing.
Cool. Shout out to Andres. Amazing.
Yeah.
If you
can't pronounce his last name, I tell you his name. It's Ugararitu. It's a Spanish / Basque name that I can't pronounce.
Oh yeah, I'm hopeless. I could barely read English. Knowing what you know now, you're entering college as a freshman. What would you study?
That's easy. Machine learning, and if you're looking for a quick job, in fact, you're coming out right now. I told my nephews. My nephews just got out of college. I have 3. One is still at BC, and 2 just got out. If you haven't studied data science and machine learning, well, it's too late. Obviously, you're already out. I mean, you can always go back. That's not true. It's never too late. Prompt engineer.
Yeah,
that is the #1 job for the next 5 years. Become a prompt engineer and understand how to manipulate the training of every single model. Know everything there is to know about the individual models, the uses, and as a coming category, agentic AI, what we're doing. So there's one thing to build what we're building. There's another thing knowing how to use them effectively. And we're DTC, but there's going to be a B2B component of this, right? And 2, repair them. So imagine the old, Maytag repair person, the washing machine repair. Imagine if that is now a digital version of AI agent repair. So that prompt engineering, which is more of a content play, and if you're data science and machine learning, agentic AI repair.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 jobs for the next 10 years.
Brilliant, especially as the tools for building agents, if it's N8N or it's Claude or whatever it is, those get more sophisticated, and all of your agents will need to be updated. And as you're building swarms of agents, and now you have 50 agents working in unison, yeah, the Maytag guy for your agents. I love it. These are gems.
Tell you what, this is how fast it's moving, and I can't even imagine it. And again, I've mentioned it old a couple of times, but my head sometimes can't wrap around how fast things are moving. Yeah. So we've spent 6 months building one of our agents right now. We now have to go back and rebuild the first 2 months because we've moved. The industry and the technology has moved that fast that as we're building it, we're actually repairing and rebuilding the beginning.
Yeah, 100%.
That's how fast it's moving.
It's wild. So cool. Okay, last question for you, CJ. I really appreciate your time. What is something you know now deeply that you wish you knew earlier?
God, these are great questions, right? They really are.
Thanks, man.
I should have prepared. I'm usually a pretty big preparation guy, and apparently I should have asked you for these questions. They're great. The rise of the DIY mentality. I grew up with, there was a specialist for everyone. Again, I've had 23 surgeries for my hockey career, 10 knees, but I've gone to 15 different specialist doctors, right? Hyper specialist. I think the future is in the rise of the generalist. And what I used to think it was that the world is won by the specialist, people who know that one thing and they know it so well, they know it better than others. I don't believe that anymore. So I wish I saw the rise of the generalist, because I would have anticipated better the rise of networking and digital networking, social media, LinkedIn, for example, the 6 degrees. And I would have anticipated the rise of things like the large language model and the conversational models, because these are the realm of the generalist, not the hyper specialist. However, that said, we're going back to a specialist way, and agentic AI is bringing the specialist back to the foreground, saying, if you want to know an agent for personal wealth management, an agent for this, an agent for that. So I guess what I'm saying is, I would have loved to have seen the rise of the generalist instead of thinking that everyone has to be a specialist. You got to be a real estate guy. You have to be a knee surgeon. No, you need to know a little bit about a lot of things.
Interesting. How are your knees?
They're terrible. They're new. Well, they're good. I mean, they're good now. They're both replaced. They were terrible for a lot of. I had a knee surgery every year for 10 straight years.
My gosh, was it acute injuries, or was it just kind of wear and tear from playing hockey all those years?
One was acute, and a trilateral ACL, MCL, and PCL blowout. All three ligaments just blew to shreds. Yeah, that was a pretty bad one. That was impact. Everything else was degradation over time. I lost all my cartilage, so I was bone on bone for a long time, and they just kept chipping away. Finally, like, we got nothing left to chip. You have to go in for new. I'll tell you, that's another thing I wish I knew. Do the new knees earlier. Don't replace them way earlier. You don't even need any of your old knees. Listen, I know there's a wing at my surgeon's house called the Follini wing. He's driving a Follini car. 10 surgeries. Are you kidding me?
Incredible. CJ, this has been so much fun. Where can people connect with you online?
Well, let's see. You can find me on LinkedIn. Apparently, I'm everywhere on LinkedIn. But our website, thank you for asking, is We Are NOYACK, NOYACK, weareNOYACK.com. And you can sign up. It's a free trial. And we also have a newsletter, as I mentioned, really proud of it, which you can also sign up for the newsletter on the website, weareNOYACK.com.
And podcasters, financial calculators. The website is gorgeous, and there's just a whole host of resources. Thanks for coming on the show and talking about it.
Right, this was great. Some of the best questions I've had in a speaking engagement ever. Thank you.
Nice. Well, now I feel guilty. I mean, they're pretty challenging. I should have given them to you beforehand.
That's all right. If I can't think on my feet, I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Tremendous. Thanks so much, CJ.
See you later. Thanks again, Ryan.
Hey, founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.